Next up, we have Pollyanna Ward, who is marketing manager for digital at Wickes. Pollyanna is absolutely fantastic on Twitter. I suggest that you follow her immediately for some of the best social content out there at the moment. But she might talk about that, she might not. But what she is going to talk about is being distinctive on social media during a pandemic. Let's pass over to Pollyanna.
Hi, everyone. So yes, I'm Pollyanna and I look after the social media at Wickes, which you can follow on social, or you can follow myself on Twitter at Pollage, as Tom so kindly introduced. And today I'm going to be talking about being distinctive on social media, particularly this year when the world is in lockdown. So the surge in social media has been driven by convenience and connection. And I'm not going to dwell too much on all of these different stats. I'm sure everyone watching has noticed their own behaviors changing. But for example, Instagram is being checked more during work hours than before. The growth in people joining social media has grown by 12%. TikTok's the most downloaded app in a quarter ever. And it's because when you have all of those normal day-to-day, face-to-face interactions taken away from you, what better way to connect with other humans is through the little screen in the palm of your hand, which is super convenient and provides you with that instantaneous connection. The problem that happens, though, is that when lots of people then go on social media and things like budgets are then moved and shifted from, say, out of home or, say, TV, you also get a swell of brands also joining social. And what you end up with is these two problems. The first one is that creative can end up then looking the same. So obviously this isn't a live Q&A, but if there was a lockdown social media bingo, I'd ask, how many repurposed TikToks did you see? How many "we're here for you" messages did you see? Screenshots from Zoom, food brands doing sourdough recipes. And that's because it's so easy to see your competitors on social in ways that you can't see them when you're running TV ads or out-of-home campaigns or radio. And so because you can see other brands and your competitors doing things, you then start to get fixated on, oh, that's got loads of likes, or that's got loads of retweets or loads of comments. And so therefore, because they've got all those likes, we must do the same thing because that will also get lots of likes. And as Gary Vee famously said, the definition of great content is not the content that makes the most sales, but the content that people most want to share with others. And I'm here to say today that that is great if you are a person or maybe an influencer, but if you are a brand, we need to step away from thinking about the likes because yes, we are in the market of making sales. Otherwise, our brands would not exist. An example of this, I'm just going to give a quick one now, is Tesco's tweet this week, where they asked their followers to quote tweet this tweet. And if you got 0 engagement on it from your friends and followers, then you'd win a free Tesco meal deal. And what that did was it was great brand awareness, got loads of retweets, got lots of likes, lots of people talking. But of course, because everyone can then see it's doing well, according to the retweets and the likes, you then start to get copycats. So literally one day later, Nando's then did exactly the same thing. So my solution is that we need to shift from social media tactics, such as getting more followers, getting more likes, fixating on how many comments another brand has got, or how many people are hearting it or retweeting it or jumping on that viral trend. And actually, we need to think about planning for brand outcomes. So do people know it's our brand when they see our content? Do people know what we sell? Are we even reaching the right people by jumping on that channel? And do we have a clear action or behavior that we want to enact? And there's 2 ways you can go about planning for brand outcomes when it comes to social. And the 2 that I'm talking about today are being distinctive. So for example, whenever you see the Starbucks red cup, those drive certain perceptions about Starbucks. So you see that and you think of Christmas, you think of festive drinks. You also see the Weetabix there. Doesn't need a logo, but you see those 2 biscuits in every single piece of Weetabix created. And you think of breakfast, you think of mornings, and you think of recipes. And so by combining that with delivering on human truths, such as sorry for all the hot dog legs or Snickers or always like a girl, you're able to then make sure that your brand is commanding the attention that it deserves. Because if you don't do those things, so for example here, you should be able to pick your brand's creative out of a lineup of all your competitors. And that's the easy part because you spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week talking and looking at your brand. But unfortunately on social media, and particularly now with the increase in content that's being put out and the increase in people being on the platform, your next potential customer isn't just looking at your competitors, but they're also looking at brunch photos. They're looking at your friends' homemade recipes, lip syncing videos, that that viral skateboard video that went viral on TikTok. And so if they don't know that it can't pick you out of all of that other content as well as your competitors, then was it all for waste? And so following Ogilvy's famous words of give me the freedom of a limited brief, at Wickes, we've created these rules and boundaries so that to act as our judgment criteria, so that every piece of content you deliver is on brand and drives a positive perception of your business. So here's an example now. And so, for example, that's delivering on the insight or the human truth, should I say, of people when they're referring about their homes and their aspirations for their homes. They talk a lot about their dream home, their dream kitchen. And so there it was pairing that together with our codes that stand for what Wickes, that are for what Wickes stands for. And we also do that as well in our sales adverts that are more functional. And we also do it in our organic content as well. By having these different codes that ladder up to your distinctiveness, it also means that you can then transcend into other platforms and channels as well. So, for example, taking that insight and the distinctive assets, the insight here is that the number one DIY spruce up during lockdown was painting, and with 13% admitting that they painted a wall. We take that insight and that human truth, we pair it with our distinctive assets, and we come out with this. And also, it's not just the big paid campaigns or the sort of awareness and conversion campaigns or organic. It's also on those more loyal, smaller activations, such as Giphy stickers, which we tapped into here. Again, people were creating more content during this time. How can we tap into that and help add a bit of fun, but it's also on brand? So we created these Giphy stickers that, again, all have our chevron on there, or the colour blue. And so if anything that you can take away from this is figure out what it is that makes your brand distinctive. So for us, it was the blue, it was the chevron, and it was the use of our logo. And so my final words today are, when the whole world goes on social media, do you want to look like everyone else, or do you want to stand out and make people think of your brand? And I finish on Moira Rose, because she never wants to fit in and be wallpaper. She wants to be herself and own it. And as such, I think arguably she is the most memorable character from Schitt's Creek. Thank you for listening.
Pollyanna, thank you so much for a great presentation. I was transfixed by those tips. I feel like such an idiot to get to 43 and not know how to paint in a tidy way. And I think you marketers across the land will have much smarter painters from now on. But I'm joking, it's a brilliant bit of content. But what you said at the end there just rings so true to me. And I say this to our clients a lot, that I think best practice is the enemy, because best practice is also known at school as copying. And if marketers are copying each other, then no one's really marketing. So how do you make sure that you listen to the right advice about content in social and don't just get stuck into copying brands, even if it isn't as bad as the Nando's Malaysia example that you gave?
So it's a good question. So I guess the first thing I always do is, what value is that piece of content going to add for a start? So we're not just outputting content or ads on social for the sake of it. So whether it's jumping on a trend or because something seems to be taking off. And the second thing is, what is your brand's invitation to join such a thing or talk about that? So I think it always comes back to, what does your brand stand for? So things like the distinctive assets are obviously really good at creating those codes so that everyone who sees them thinks of your brand. But actually, when it comes to creating the content itself, it's okay, if there's a sourdough trend, what is the Burger King's take on that? that. Or Greggs was really good at this. They did a take on the sausage roll because that's what they're famous for. So you can jump on these trends, but it's what's your brand's value going to be so that you do stick out. So you're not just doing another sourdough recipe or another repurposed TikTok.
And you also mentioned about anyone who works at a brand should be able to pick out their ads amongst a roll call of their competitors, you would hope. But how do you stop yourself getting trapped in that kind of echo chamber of your own content? How do you make sure that you step outside and see the world of marketing as it is, as opposed to how your brand thinks it is?
I think one of the things that we've really proud of with our agencies is making sure that they send us, it's not just competitors, it's what's good on social. So we obviously look at what our competitors are doing because we're all interested and there's a need to know that. But also it's really encouraging people to also share things from food, things from, pharmaceuticals. So it's about looking outside the box. And I think that's where also a lot of innovation comes from. The best ideas might not be from your category. And if you want to be best in class, if your category, for example, isn't best in class, it's probably not the best category to look at. So it's best to take from a broad range of sources.
Pollyanna, thank you so much for that insight.